Sitting here today with Joe. Joe owns an in-life wellness studio in the Sydney suburb of Peakhurst. It's one of our top performing studios, which is a credit to Joe and her team and the culture that she generates both within her team of instructors and the members. I met Jo a few years ago. She came to work as an already qualified instructor at our studio in Menai, and she's just been a really beautiful person to be involved with. Going to talk to Jo today on a few topics. What she focuses on mostly in her classes. We're going to talk about class preparation setup. Jo's naturally a quieter personality, so we're going to talk about how she controls the room and commands a bit of respect with her naturally softer presence. We're going to talk about exercise options and modifications and touch on pregnancy. So quickly, first up, I'm going to throw one at you. How would you describe your instructing style?
Oh God, I love this question. My style, I think it changes regularly, to be honest. I don't like to say I just have one type of style. It depends what mood I'm in. It depends on kind of what I'm into at the time. I say it's a little bit more traditional though. Like I definitely like to stick to a lot of the traditional exercises and then just kind of throw some other things in with that. But yeah, I'd say traditional, but like to mix it up.
So on that topic of, not being the loudest person in the room, I mean, I sort of say that when Jo teaches a class, in a good way, you can hear a pin drop. She's got everyone's attention so much. Do you put that down to experience, or, what's your theory on communication or public speaking?
Yeah, I think it's experience. When I am teaching a class, I find that I can turn it on in the sense that I'm not super loud on a regular basis, but when I'm teaching, I know I've really learned how to project my voice and how to get everyone's attention. I almost have that school teacher hat on where they put their hand up and try and get everyone's attention. So when people are kind of chatting and stuff, which is really happens a lot now at the studio, just trying to get everyone's attention to start the class can sometimes even be a little bit difficult. And for me at first that was a little bit hard because I'd be like, okay guys, let's go. And now I'm just like, all right, let's do it guys, we're getting ready. Just really just be confident, and just I think the more you teach, that confidence just naturally starts to come out. Yeah.
It was a long time ago when I first started taking classes, and they weren't even Pilates classes, but a mentor of mine said to me that the studio is it's a theatre and you're the performer. So you really are there to facilitate the workout. The members, they're not silly or dumb, but they want to be told what to do. Jo made a good point. We try and develop this culture of community and people knowing each other and having a chat. Sometimes starting a class can be a case of bringing everyone to attention and almost interrupting those chats. And just to make sure that we start on time and get everything working. I feel like some of these questions are broad, and sometimes I think a big broad question gets a big vague answer. But if you were to think about what you focus on mostly in your classes, I mean, is it the exercise technique? Is it being fun? Is it knowing people's names? What are some of your top focuses?
I think one of my biggest ones is the flow of the class. That's super important to me, because you could have a really strong class where things are really hard, but if it's just clunky, I just feel like you walk away from that class and you're just like, well, what just happened? What did I do? That just didn't feel nice. So the flow for me is a really big thing. I really like to just work my way around the reformer, not too many spring changes, stuff like that. And then incorporating the other things into it. So, I try to just have, even though every class is full body, it will kind of be focused on something, on a bit of a theme, and then I work around that. And then always just having a little bit of a warm-up, main kind of big bulk of the class, and then a really nice kind of just cool down, bit of meditation or something at the end, just to bring it all together. Other focuses, it just depends on the class too, I find, depending on the time. Say if it's a 5:30 a.m. class, a lot of them really want to go a little bit harder. So I'll change my focus of the class depending on the time, the vibe, the people in the class, and that is something I feel I have learned with the more experience, just kind of gauging what's the vibe of the class? What are these people going to need? Because the 9:30 a.m. class is not going to want the same thing as the 5:30 a.m.
When Joe and I first started working together, she would, probably for the first 2 years, she took 15 to 20 classes a week. And when you do the maths on that, it's somewhere between 700 and 1,000 classes a year. And that can come with its fair share of pressure to keep coming up with variety. Joe takes some of our ongoing instructor upskilling educational workshops, and one of the topics that we did recently was coming up with variety inspiration. So Joe's really good at having a sequence of exercises, even if it's as simple as the foot bar series, and doing the same thing but using different props, like the band and the ball. You find that even though it's similar, it feels different.
Yeah, 100%. I love using props. I love a basic class with no props, but the best thing about a prop is that you can do the same class 5 times with a different prop, and then get a completely different feel or a different focus out of that same class plan. So, and I've got a lot of my girls coming up to me like, "Oh, I'm out of ideas. Like, how do I come up with ideas?" It's not exhausting, but it's hard work. And that's the biggest thing I say to them. Well, have you tried that same thing with this prop? Or, you don't always need to change your entire class. You can just change one part of that class, adding in a prop or changing a sequence, and everything else can still be similar. But members are not going to notice it. I think it's us as instructors that might get a little bit bored and constantly feel like we need to be changing it. Really,
that's a really good point. That's a really good point. And I mean, I like to say that the member might have done 3 classes in between your classes with different teachers, and they get their variety that way.
Exactly.
A few sort of, hopefully just short, sharp, rapid fire questions. If I was to ask you what's one potential bad habit to avoid as an instructor, what springs to mind?
The first thing that comes to my mind is definitely too much, what did I say before? Demonstration, that's right. Too much demonstrating. So I find that, again, going back to the flow can just make the class feel clunky. Like, you get into a good rhythm and then all of a sudden we're up and we're just kind of, you don't want to be sitting around waiting for your instructor to show you a full series. And I think that's something I very much focus on in my classes as well, personally. Like, I will get them going and then I'll add the layers and keep them moving rather than stopping, showing them. And then, don't get me wrong, I think there is a place for that, especially if you're doing something a bit different or more complicated, but definitely not every class. And
So Joe's touched on flow quite a few times already here, which tips into many elements: working around the machine, minimal use of props, minimal spring changes, minimal demonstration time, get them moving and then explain. So we're trying to explain to people that just knowing the exercises is a little part of the class. There's a whole bunch of other logistical things. And when I say logistical, I mean you're here to facilitate a workout and an experience. And it's kind of like, I think of it like 45 minutes of instructions. And then in amongst that, I sometimes say to the guys, "Hey, sorry everyone, I've been so busy barking out instructions, I forget to tell you how good you're going," and maybe taking a break. I'm not big on breaks either, but every instructor is different. Some instructors might have a yoga background. They might be more about the breath work and the stretching. Some instructors might have a gym or personal training background. They might be more inclined to go a little heavier or stick with basics like squats, lunges, push-ups and rows. What about, you've had a couple of kids yourself, you probably had your fair share of pregnant ladies in classes. Sometimes as a new instructor, pregnancy can make us a little scared or cautious. What are your thoughts on pregnant ladies in classes?
My biggest thing is that pregnant ladies are pregnant, they're not sick and they're not hurt. So that's what I tell my instructors. Like, you don't need to be nervous or scared. Most of them would have been doing Pilates already or some sort of training. You do get ones that come, brand new, but it's super safe for them. We don't need to overthink it. There's just a few key things. So just not having them lay flat. So a lot of the studios will have a little wedge, a foam roller, just anything to prop them up. Even a towel is fine. Most of them, will be able to feel. I would just ask, constantly keeping them involved and asking them if they feel okay. Is this still okay? Is that still okay? Every pregnant lady will be different. So as long as you're communicating with them and making sure they feel okay, then there's so much, you can pretty much do everything other than lying prone on your stomach, or maybe just being careful with some Pilates ring work, but other than that, I think you really can just do so much. Yeah.
I find that I wouldn't say I fuss over pregnant ladies, but I always want to make sure that the exercise is safe and effective. And more often than not, they'll say to me, you know what, I'm fine. I know what to do. Just, carry on with it, within reason. On a similar but different topic, I mean, we've all had that class where we've got our plan, and then as people filter into the room, somebody's just had a knee replacement or spinal surgery, somebody's an absolute weapon ready to do a triathlon, and somebody's on their first class, and somebody like is 32 weeks pregnant. What are your thoughts on options modifications, and have you ever had a class plan that just goes out the window?
Yes. all the time. My thoughts are like just the layers of the class are really important, because if you just have the layers, you're starting with the most basic and you're working it up, so people already have an option there to keep it simple. But yeah, there's always a good idea to just have modifications up your sleeve ready to go. I think the biggest things that we need to worry about are sore backs, shoulders, lower backs, maybe ab separation, things like that. So if you kind of know the basics, you know, okay, potentially there's going to be one person in every class that has a bad shoulder or a bad hip. Just knowing your modifications and having a few things up your sleeve is just really important.
I find that a lot of it's about bad backs and also sore knees, but the beauty of the reformer is that with sore knees, like, they can still leg press, obviously, still feet in straps, maybe careful of a lunge in a scooter, standing side splits, no worries, all these beautiful lower body options. Just about to wrap up, but just in case anybody is new to the word layers means?
Layers means, so when we're doing a series of a class, we basically would start with the most basic version, so your hands in strap series, you'd start with your feet in tabletop, and then just arms, and then we'd add in the curl, then we'd add in the single leg, and then the double leg, and then whatever you want to go from there. So so basically just starting with the most basic version of whatever series and exercise that you're doing, and adding on one progression at a time. And then whoever's ready to go the full way will, and whoever isn't can stick to wherever they're comfortable. And I always make sure I say in my classes, like, stay where you're comfortable. This is the most advanced progression, so if you're not comfortable here, feel free to give it a go. I can give you a hand, but everyone is at different levels, so
No, thanks heaps, Jo. And I hope just by watching the video you can get a feel for Jo's energy and also her kind of like understated passion. Jo's got she's held in very high regard by a lot of instructors and all the members. So really wanted to hear her thoughts here.
Thank you.